Hello, this is OA On Air, the official podcast of O'Neill & Associates. I'm Kyan Isaacson, and welcome back. On our podcast this week, we have 321 Go with Cosmo Macero. We're talking about a recent survey that says Massachusetts consumers want coupons and loyalty programs for their alcoholic beverage purchases. Amazon and Whole Foods are entering the food delivery game, and young people in Japan now get to be grown-ups 2 years earlier. Also, Ann Murphy in our office speaks with Andria Lee Blackman, a local actress, model, and stuntwoman. Yes, she's very cool. And she recently portrayed Joan Kennedy in the movie Chappaquiddick. Finally, in 2 Minutes with Tom this week, our CEO Tom O'Neill reflects on Father's Day, the importance of that Father's Day phone call, and takes a moment to talk about his dad, former Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill. First up, 3, 2, 1, go.
Let's talk about something important.
Hello and welcome to 321 Go on OA On Air, the official podcast series of O'Neill & Associates, New England's leader in public affairs. My name is Cosmo Macero, your host for 321 Go, where each week we take a brief but purposeful look at 3 important stories from the universe of public affairs, business, government, culture, and the economy. In this installment of 321 Go, we'll look at a new survey that suggests Massachusetts consumers want the same kind of coupons and loyalty programs for beer, wine, and spirits that they get from all kinds of other retailers. And Whole Foods is using its Amazon delivery chops to expand its Prime Now 2-hour delivery service to more cities, including Boston. And finally, it just got a little easier and a couple of years quicker to become an official grown-up in Japan. We'll explain. Joining me here on 321 Go is Kyan Isaacson, a senior director at O'Neill & Associates, a state government expert, a communications strategist, and the official voice of OA On Air. Kyan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Cosmo?
Very well. All right, let's get to it. Up first, who doesn't love a good discount? Nobody, right? Nobody. I bet nobody.
I do.
You love it. You do love it or you don't love it?
I do.
Exactly. I bet most listeners right now have several discount loyalty cards in their wallets from all kinds of retailers, right? The drugstore and the supermarket.
It's weighing my wallet down a little bit, but yes.
All right. Well, a new survey out this week suggests that Massachusetts consumers, they love discounts and they'd really like to have the same type of retailer-backed coupons and loyalty programs when they buy beer, wine, and spirits. Because guess what? In Massachusetts, the law doesn't really allow that very fundamental element of the retail sector to operate that way in the beer, wine, and spirits retail world. Because of the way the laws are written, you can't provide a retailer-backed coupon for beer, wine, and spirits. You can't use a loyalty card in the same way. And Massachusetts consumers, according to this survey by Consumers First, that's an initiative backed by the national retailer Total Wine and More, which, by the way, has been a humongous success so far in Massachusetts, suggesting 87%, that's a lot, 87% of consumers in Massachusetts surveyed are opposed to laws that prohibit beer, wine, and spirits retailers from offering these coupons and discount programs. It's funny that there's been a whole process at the state level to examine and reimagine in a positive way the alcohol laws in Massachusetts. Hasn't really registered, according to the survey, on the radar with most people, yet they really have a stake in it. Because guess what? Beer, wine, and spirits is a very popular consumer product, especially here in summertime. Right, Kyan?
Absolutely. And this says it was 217 respondents. I'll make it 218. I agree.
Well, think about your habits, right? I mean, and I know from the retailer's perspective, there's a couple of things here. It's a critical marketing tool. CVS and other drugstores and your supermarket, whether it's Wegmans or Stop and Shop, and just about any other retail, they're learning a lot about you. They're learning your patterns so they can market to you. But that's also a way of better serving you, and that's important too. But in this case, it's the discounts and giving consumers access to the discounts that this survey says they really want.
Think about how many people buy cases of wine, whether it's for a party that they're holding, maybe that's their personal preference, or Christmas time for gifts. Imagine if it was buy 11, get one free or something like that. I think you create incentive on the one hand, but for others, again, loyalty. I'm going to keep going back if I'm getting some points for something, and I'm going to keep going back to the same store. So that certainly benefits the retailers, but really benefits us as customers,
Sure.
which is...
Oh, absolutely. Big surprise, consumers surveyed here are opposed to new excise and other taxes on beer, wine, and spirits. Don't want to see increases in taxes. Not a big surprise there. But it's really bringing attention to this industry in Massachusetts and really upgrading the regulatory environment, which, by the way, hasn't changed in like 80 years. It's essentially the laws are still the vestiges of antiquated of many years ago, and this is part of an effort to modify them and make them more consumer friendly.
And if you think about the beer, wine, and spirit market, it's certainly very different than it was 5 to 10 years ago. We've got to bring the laws up to change with that. We've got craft beer now that's making a big boom. People are saying this generation is taking wine drinking to a whole other level. Ding, 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 I'm done. So, long story short, I agree on the coupons and the discounts, but essentially as part of a larger thing is that the laws and the policies need to reflect what the market looks like these days. And we're drinking beer and wine and spirits differently than we were decades ago.
And the retail experience is really being enhanced by some of these game changers like Total Wine and more. That's a good thing. I think this goes hand in hand with improving that experience. Next up, what do you get when you cross a high-end grocery store with the world's leader in delivery logistics and online retail? You get wicked fast home grocery delivery of high-end groceries. Whole Foods this week, which is owned by Amazon, announced they're going to offer their Prime Now deliveries in Boston and 3 other cities, adding those to about 30 other cities around the country. They're adding these cities. Amazon customers who have Prime memberships will be able to get their groceries delivered for free, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. If you want something in just 1 hour, if you want a grocery order in 1 hour, you pay an $8 fee, minimum $35. Minimum $35 purchase? Who has ever spent less than $35 at Whole Foods? Who's ever spent less than $70 at Whole Foods?
I'm happy if I can get out of Whole Foods for less than $100.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's a no-brainer. The $8 right there, you won't even notice it. So Whole Foods is rolling out Prime Now deliveries. They earlier this year in 8 cities, they introduced a 10% discount on grocery purchases to Prime members in several states. That's actually not available in Massachusetts, but the 2-hour delivery window for free, basically all day. If you can't fit your delivery in between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m., you know what? You're leading too busy of a life. $7.99 with a minimum $35 purchase for the 1-hour delivery. Cayenne, I know you're a big fan of certain grocery chains over others, but this is just another feature of what happens when a big retailer, a big popular retail brand, brick and mortar, Whole Foods, comes together with this giant global behemoth that is Amazon. And I'll tell you, the logistics is the key here. The ability to turn around a delivery at a moment's notice it's pretty remarkable.
I think that's going to be the test, right? Is whether or not logistically it can be done. There's a lot of moving parts. 2 hours is not a lot of time, in theory, depending on how far people have to go, how far is the Whole Foods from where you are. In Boston traffic, are we talking about a 30-minute commute to your door? But it seems like it's about time. It also is a lot of incentive for Amazon because they're going to recruit new Prime members and what that means for all of their other offerings. Yeah. So it's really just the business move in and of itself is huge. I am an avid online grocery consumer. I like to have my groceries delivered from time to time, partially because I live too busy a life and partially sometimes just because I'm lazy. But it's a nice offering. Whole Foods hasn't had it before. This is a natural partnership now that they've been taken over. So we'll see if they can manage the 2-hour window.
Yeah, a knee-jerk or sort of a knee-jerk reaction or a typical reaction to this might be, gee, this is another thing that's going to really hurt the small neighborhood retailer. I actually don't know if that's true, because I think that experience for the customer that's still using that kind of a store, and by the way, I'm one of those people, for certain types of shopping, it's not really going to change your habits. I think what it does is put pressure on the middle, the large regional chains that have some scale, but probably aren't really ready or really into trying to keep up with the Joneses in this regard and say, okay, well, we can do delivery in 2 hours or 3 hours. That's where I think this really is going to put a squeeze.
Well, and a lot of those chains, your Roach Brothers, Stop and Shop, Wegmans, have been doing this delivery model for quite some time. A lot of them also offer pickup, so you can order it if you don't want to have it delivered because you don't want to wait, or maybe you don't want to pay the additional fee, where you drive up and somebody brings it out to your car. That's also really handy for some people. And most people, and this might be a broad-brushed statement, but a lot of people I don't know that use Whole Foods solely as their only grocery store. I think
you're right.
that's the difference, right? So I think that is where it leaves room for the mom and pops in your local store. If you're still going to one store for 70% of your groceries, and then maybe you go to Whole Foods for your produce or for their, whatever else fresh that you want, that's not going to affect how you're doing the rest of your shopping. But it's the next level for Amazon. I mean, for me, this is more of an Amazon story of, this is one more thing you can get from Amazon. And let's think about when Amazon started 10 plus years ago. It was books. And there were people saying, this isn't a model that can be sustained. They're never going to make money. They didn't for a long time. Now, you can basically get just about anything from Amazon.
It is pretty remarkable. The delivery experience, I think back when my kids were really young, and we purchased a lot of milk, and we had a dairy that delivered. And they had other items too, not a full grocery basket, but a lot of items that you could order. And man, talk about a premium experience. They would come into your home and they would put the things away. And to the point where, like, this is amazing. And I also feel kind of like a loser that I'm watching this guy in his uniform putting my groceries away, and I'm just standing here like some kind of an idiot. But that's high-end service, and it's been delivered at a small scale for a long time. This, though, is about speed. This is about dependability and the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to order now. I'm going to have my stuff in plenty of time for my dinner party tonight, whatever it might be. It's pretty significant. Just one more thing on this, because I've been kind of watching the movements of these big retailers, and if you think about Amazon and how it is coming together with brick and mortar stores to enhance the experience and gives consumers more options.
And the pickup locations.
And the pickup locations, and the Amazon lockers at Whole Foods. And then you look at Walmart, right? The behemoth of brick and mortar, also making deals and developing services for delivery and enhancing its own delivery.
Target as well.
And Target, they're kind of coming together to just to battle it out and see who can get the upper hand. I think because of the logistical operation that Jeff Bezos has built with Amazon, he really has an edge there. I don't know if Whole Foods is the perfect partner for every American, but it's a big brand.
Yeah, and Whole Foods doesn't exist everywhere, but where it does exist and people utilize it, I know, people here in our office go there for the lines are always long, the stores are always packed. It makes sense to me. Hey, I am a big proponent of, if I can get multiple things done at the same time, which means I can be at home doing laundry or at my kids' practice and getting the grocery shopping taken care of. That makes my life easier. I think a lot of other people feel that way, and more businesses are going to have to find a way to elbow their way into it. Yeah.
The service culture in a lot of different consumer-facing businesses, you really have to have your A game, and this is another example of that. And finally, adulthood's coming 2 years early this year to millions of Japanese teens. A new law passed just this week lowered the age of official adulthood in Japan from 20 to 18. The law doesn't take effect till 2020. But there's more equality because males 18 and up and females 16 and up used to be able to marry but needed parental consent until they were 20. Now, boom, age is 18. You reach that age of majority in Japan. Anyone 18 or older can get married on their own. They also, by the way, can take out a loan, change their gender, vote. But new age of majority in Japan. Hey, there's an area where they're more conservative, small c, than many Americans. Where I think in some states we're talking, I don't know, 14 with parental consent, maybe 16, maybe 15. Either way, this is seen as a significant cultural shift in Japan. Cayenne, what do you think?
I'm really happy that girls in Japan are getting some equal footing. Girl power. Yay. Yeah. The idea that males 18 and up and females 16 and up used to be able to marry. Now we're putting women on the same decision-making level as men, more than past time. That's exciting. They still can't drink, gamble, or smoke until the age of 20. So some variances, but overall, good move.
Drink, gamble, smoke. So in the U.S., you got 21 on drinking, you got 21 on gambling.
18 on gambling.
18? Smoking is 21.
No.
18 also still? Yeah.
18 for smoking. There's a recent proposal to change that. But gambling and smoking are 18, or to purchase cigarettes to smoke, and then drinking 21.
And now, well, at least state by state, we might as well talk about cannabis very briefly in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's
effective July 1st. You can purchase marijuana, purchase cannabis if you're 21 years old.
21.
But, traditionally, and this is the cultural shift here in Japan, it's a little bit difficult for these teens because they're traditionally preparing at 18 for these intense postgraduate entrance exams, and somehow that's causing some disruption or concern as to what's going to happen when this goes into effect in 2020. But hey, if you're a Japanese teen, you turn 18, you're officially an adult, and you're right that the key thing there is these kids getting married, which is something I'm very interested in.
Yes, as a justice of the peace. So, what are your thoughts?
I am a justice of the peace here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, inexperienced, but just getting going. I think it makes sense. I think that's a really good age. I would have no problem with an across the board. You can get married at age 18. You don't need your parents' consent.
You can vote. You can get drafted. You can go fight for your country. You should be able to get married.
I think so. I think the drinking age is where it ought to be, for sure. But 18 years old, you're an adult, and that's an adult decision. You can make that. So this makes a little bit of sense to me.
What's actually really interesting is that they have a coming of age ceremony usually when they turn 20. So it seems like being considered an adult is very different than here. Like, what do we have parties for here? Maybe 13 bar and bat mitzvah, maybe a sweet 16, maybe a quinceañera. But
Dante Alighieri, there's a coming out party in the Italian community and some.
I didn't get a party when I turned 18.
No, I mean I got a graduation party and then I celebrated my 21st birthday in a non-family way.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting too, is that they recognize their adults differently, I think, than we recognize them here, and that is not in any way an expert statement, but what I'm inferring from this article and the idea that they do a ceremony when you come of age.
Yeah, we assign adulthood to different things, or we assign our maturity to different things kind of randomly. I mean,
very arbitrary.
Quite honestly, I mean, I don't want to raise the driving age, but 16 years old, you're driving a car. I mean, you're driving a potentially deadly weapon, so you better know what the heck you're doing.
A lot of responsibility.
Tremendous amount of responsibility. All right. Hey, that's going to do it for this week's edition of 321 Go. Cayenne, it's a pleasure as always.
Always good to be here.
All right. Terrific. Hey, 321 Go is recorded in Studio 10A, just off the historic Tip O'Neill Room at our building in the heart of Government Center, Boston, Massachusetts. Thanks for listening, and goodbye till next time. I'm Cosmo Macero.
That's all for 3, 2, 1, Go. Up next, Andria Lee Blackman on fulfilling her lifelong dream of becoming an actress, the amazing things she gets to do as a stunt woman, and her recent experience playing Joan Kennedy in Chappaquiddick.
Welcome to OA On Air. I'm Aunt Murphy, Senior Vice President at O'Neill & Associates, and today we're very happy to have local actress and model Andria Blackman with us. She's got a lot of fascinating stories to tell. Welcome, Andria.
Thank you, Anne.
It's great for you to be here, and I just want everybody to know, I know a little bit about you, but can you tell me a little bit on when did you first know that you wanted to be an actress, and how did that all manifest?
I think when I was young, my mom took me to Wheelock Theater, and I saw a play, To Kill a Mockingbird, and I was just so fascinated by the stage, the lighting, the actors, just the whole thing was just fascinating to me, and I was just captivated at a very young age, and just had the passion to be on stage and be involved with all that.
Wow, how old were you then when you saw that?
Jeez, I don't know.
Younger than 10?
Probably right around 10 years old.
Right around that age. And the world is before you. Well, what were some of your first acting roles?
One of the first jobs I ever worked on was the movie Fever Pitch. That was my first movie. I worked as an extra, and that's how I got involved in doing movies. Before then, I did some commercial work. I worked on an anti-smoking commercial. I did some commercials for Dunkin' Donuts, Subway, Keurig Coffee.
Wow, all those brands. Fever Pitch, now that is like one of my favorite movies. What was it like to be in that movie?
It was hard work. We worked a lot of overnights on that. I think I worked 2 weeks straight on that movie, and we filmed in pretty cold temperatures, and we had to shoot and pretend like it was warmer temperatures, and we were freezing, and we'd fill up our water bottles with hot water to keep our hands cold, not cold, keep them warm, and just really fun to be in the close proximity with Drew Barrymore and Jimmy Fallon, and to work with the Farley brothers, who are the coolest guys to work with. They're from Boston, and they're really fun. They're really, really fun, and all about family, and they just have such an amazing cast and crew when they work.
Did you work at Fenway Park on that?
We did, yes.
In the cold?
Yes.
Although sometimes we are sitting in the cold with this weather here in Fenway Park, but that must have been an amazing experience to be working at Fenway Park as an actress.
It was so cool. We got to go on the field, which was a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. One thing I wanted to talk about a little bit about being an actress in the Boston area as opposed to being in New York or LA, where the entertainment centers are. How difficult is it, or is it easy to get roles? What happens in that regard?
It's pretty challenging here because there's not as many opportunities as I'd like anyways. There's so much more going on in New York and Los Angeles, and you're very restricted as to some of the roles that you can get here. But I make it work.
You do. You certainly do. And one of the things we're going to talk about making it work is you recently appeared as Joan Kennedy in the movie Chappaquiddick. Tell us how you got that role.
My agency that I work with, Maggie Inc., Casey, my agent there, he called me in to go in and see Angela at Boston Casting and to audition for this role. And Angela was like, "You'll be perfect for this." And so I went in, I auditioned, I got myself dressed up in the whole 60s look and tried to channel my own Joan Kennedy, the whole look from head to toe.
So you did that in the audition?
I did that in the audition. You have to do that. You have to make yourself look like the character so you are relatable and the director can picture you in that role.
That's amazing. So how did you prepare for the role? Once you got the role, which must have been really exciting, then how did you prepare for it?
I did a lot of research on Joan Kennedy. I watched a lot of clips, or whatever clips I could find on her, just to see her mannerisms, how she walked, how she spoke, and just studied a lot of photographs of her. And I also had my hair lightened a lot and cut to look like her. I went through a lot of makeup trials, and then we went with the whole wardrobe, which was amazing. They had these great costumes made for me to replicate exactly what she wore for certain scenes that she's photographed in. And so, I mean, everything from the undergarments. I mean, I even had a bra from the 60s on it, which was crazy.
Yeah.
A lot different from those.
The new ones.
The new ones, yeah. But it was very, very fascinating. And the old shoes and the jewelry, I mean, just amazing.
Well, I can attest that I saw the movie, and the styling alone was beautiful, and you really did bring out the essence of her in the movie. I thought that, you looked like her. It was just really, I thought you really did a great job there.
Thank you. It was very fun.
So what was your experience like working on that movie with Ed Helms and with Jason Clarke? They also had very prominent roles, and they seemed like they were, they did a great job. I don't know what it's like working with them.
Yeah, just incredible actors. I very much respect for Jason Clarke, who's just incredible. I mean, he's done so many great films, and to be able to work side by side with him was really, really amazing. And Ed Helms, I always see him in these comedies, and to see him in a different role was really cool. I mean, that's a really great actor when you can see them play different levels and just, immerse themselves in a different character.
Wow, that was great. I know that they did an awesome job. Well, tell me, I know you have a lot of other things that you've done in your life in the acting world, and I'm personally fascinated about your experience working as a stunt actress and what roles you've appeared in, and what did you do during those stunt acting?
So I've worked as a stunt double for Laura Linney on the show Showtime's Big C. And I did some scuba diving for her down in Puerto Rico, which was really exciting. A little bit scary because I had to get caught in a fishing net and reeled out of a boat. That was really, really fun, just to be able to go scuba diving down in Puerto Rico. And I did some swimming stuff for her down there as well. Another actress that I've doubled for is Mimi Gummer. Doing some water swimming stuff because she didn't want to get into the water in March in the ocean on the Cape. So I
don't think many people would, really.
But I volunteered. I like I like the excitement, and I'm always up for anything. So I did that. I also did some precision drive and stunt driving stuff on a movie called A Year by the Sea. Another movie I went in the water for in March.
Can't you get in the water in August, really?
I know. So I did that, and then I did some. I do a lot of stunt work for myself for roles that I do. So like Body of Proof, I was an Olympic equestrian for that show, and I was murdered, and so I had to be. It had to look like I was being dragged through the woods by a horse. Oh my God. So I did that. That was interesting.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Dragged to the wood by a horse. Now, were you attached to the horse during the shooting of this?
So there was no horse involved. It was supposed to be. It was supposed to be that I was dragged by a horse. They actually had me raked to a truck, and my leg was harnessed, and they had a rope, and they were pulling me through the woods.
That still doesn't sound too good.
I mean, there's a safety coordinator there, there's a stunt coordinator, so they make sure everything, is as safe as it can be. But, I mean, you still end up with bumps and bruises, but I love it. I love it.
How do you prepare for stunt acting? And you said that they have, like, safety people there, but there is this element of danger. You have to be willing to do this stuff and sort of be fearless. Are you fearless?
I am pretty fearless, I'd have to say. In certain situations, I know my limits and I won't go beyond those, and that's a good thing for a stunt person, because you can't say, yeah, I can do anything, and then get in the position and you can't do it. So you have to be, real about what you can do, and you just have to train for the types of projects that you could be on. So I'll train some martial arts stuff, I'll do some scuba diving, I'll practice swimming, I'll keep up with my horseback riding, just so I can do all those things at a drop of a hat if I need to.
So you are already accomplished in some of those things. You already had experience in that anyway, so you didn't have to just learn a totally new skill, but hone it up, right?
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Anyway, I just can't believe all the things you could do. But I also know you have a lot of layers to what you do. You're also a sought-after model, and you created this interesting initiative called the Icon Project. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I had this idea with my mom and my husband to take these 12 images of iconic women and recreate them from start to finish. So the whole project started with the idea that I would recreate 2 pictures. One was the Farrah Fawcett, the iconic picture of her in the red bathing suit.
Oh, really?
And then I wanted to do a photo of Grace Kelly that I loved growing up. And so from those 2, I developed 12, and I found the best hair, makeup, photographers, everyone locally in Boston area to work on this with me. So I have a different team for each shot, and so just recreated the whole look, hair, makeup, wardrobe, location.
They're amazing photos.
Thank you.
Amazing. And I think that when people go and look at, I'll direct them to your website at the end of this, but when they see them, it's just really, you just really embody those beautiful pictures and the women in it. And it's very creative. I thought it was really interesting. And I know since you're in this business, and it's really a tough business to be in acting or modeling, I know that you probably get asked for advice a lot. And you said that you really want to share your information with others, and you're going to try to start some kind of consulting practice via online. How is that going?
I get a lot of emails or Facebook messages or just people that I know that will, how can I get my son or my daughter involved in this? And I'd like to just kind of help mentor people in a way and show them the right way to go about the business and teach them about the business, because it is a business. It's an art, but it also is a business, and you have to be able to handle rejection, and you have to be able to know how to market yourself if you want to be successful in the business. And there's so many different layers to it, and I just think that I can offer a lot to people. And there's a lot of opportunities for people. You don't have to be a perfect 10 type model or 5'11" to do some of the work in Boston. So I'd like to just help people. And
that's great. I think getting more information out there for anybody is obviously great. What's your next step? Do you have any news for us, or we have to just stay tuned?
You can stay tuned. I have a couple photo shoots lined up for next week, which will be fun with some local clients. And, I just keep auditioning for stuff.
We'll see you out there. And if anybody wants to check out Andria's website, it's AndriaBlackman.com with an ANDRIA Blackman.com. Thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you, Anne. This was fun.
And finally, 2 Minutes with Tom. This week, Tom talks about Father's Day and his dad, Tip O'Neill, who left a profound mark on our country through his dedication to leadership in politics and government. So Tom, Father's Day is coming up this weekend, and with that in mind, I thought it would be a good time to talk about your dad, Tip O'Neill.
In my mind, it's always a good time to talk about my father, but when you talk about my father and Father's Day, I suspect he was like everybody else's father around Father's Day. He viewed it with a mind towards, this might have been a greeting card ploy put on by the American greeting card people to make people believe yet another important holiday was needed in place of or together with Mother's Day, which is far more important, as we all know.
That is a very good thing to say.
However, I will tell you that if I didn't call my father on Father's Day, or somehow I forgot or overlooked it, the importance of it, I didn't hear from him necessarily, but I heard from my mother, who said, you forgot to call your father last night, and you owe him a telephone call. And he'd pretend that it never bothered him. So, I'm of the same mind, and I'm a father as well. I don't make a big deal out of Father's Day. I really never think about it until it's directly upon me, a day or two, like it is now, before me. However, if my kids didn't call me, I'd be devastated.
Tom, your father is obviously very well known, a very well respected figure, Tip O'Neill, and I know we've all heard a lot of great stories about him, but for anyone who didn't know him personally or didn't have a personal connection, what he's really known for is his exceptional work, and particularly around bipartisanship. With everything that's happening in today's world and government, what do you think he would have to say?
Well, he would be distraught, I think, like an awful lot of Americans are today, about what the scene in Washington is like today and how the American government is operating, or frankly not operating. And he was somebody who came into politics with a deep respect for the body politic, the process of government, and he viewed people and the offices people held as to be people who were noble, and that the office was to be treated with a great degree of understanding and respect. And so when my father is remembered at the same time and in the same breath as Ronald Reagan, because of the way they were able to cooperate and get along with one another, it was because they both attacked politics from the same vantage point. They respected one another, they respected the office that the other held, and they both believed that politics was the art of compromise. And the government was there so that progress was made for the American people and the government of the United States.
That's it for this week's episode of OA On Air. Thank you for tuning in. Now be sure to subscribe. You can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and really anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. We'll talk to you next week. OA On Air is developed, recorded, and produced in our Boston office here in Government Center. Production by Brooke O'Meara-Sion. And content creation by the O'Neill & Associates team. Music is provided by Ben Sound and Long Zijun. To stay up to date with us here at OA On Air, be sure to subscribe on SoundCloud and iTunes.